I admire card collectors. Not every card collector, but I admire card collectors who are artists, who express artistry in how they collect. They're people who put together collections that are personal and that are meaningful and that really speak to a blend of head, right? The ability to recognize a beautiful card, to discern quality, right? To then add history, meaning, and context to the card. So a blend of head and heart, someone whose love of of sports, of baseball, and of cardboard just comes through in everything that they do. Tonight on the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game, we have a special episode, episode 59, Season Team Boombox and Screen. Tonight we are looking at the 1989 Cubs. And that collector, that artist who is my guest to go back to the 1989 Cubs is none other than Matthew, 1956 Top Sky. Welcome.
Oh man, I'm so happy to be here, Dave. Ever since I think we chatted about this like briefly at the National last year, and
Yeah.
that's been like on my mind ever since then. Like when you kind of gave me the concept of what this thing was going to be, I knew immediately like the season and team that was pretty obvious, and
Nice.
then got to mess around thinking about the boombox screen. I'm super jazzed to be here, dude. I love your podcast. Also feel like I'm in the club. I got
Nice.
I got the thing, the pin that you gave me from the All-Star game.
Yeah.
I'm super jazzed to be here, man.
Yeah.
Can't wait
Oh,
to do this.
so finding that wall at National and just sitting down and talking cards the first time we met in person, just right away chopping it up. And if I don't remember the conversation, but one of the things I talked about was this incredible, in the hobby to me, it's a legendary trade that you made for the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, right? And we didn't know each other at the time. But I remember it's been a year. It was February of 2023. I was in Israel. I was in Tel Aviv, and one of the things I love to do when I'm there is I love to walk. And I was just walking all through the city. It's beautiful. It's flat, really cool Bauhaus architecture. And I started walking along the Tayel at the beach, right along the boardwalk. And I remember listening to you tell this story uh, on a podcast. And that was sort of my first introduction to you. And uh, well, it's an incredible story, and I'm really looking forward to you sharing it with our audience a little bit later on. Whoever you are, wherever you are, this is one worth staying to the end for, because it's an incredible trade. And that was actually what we talked about at the National. Was I was actually kind of seeking your advice to see, well, what would be desirable from someone, a potential trade partner. I really appreciated that conversation. So let me ask you, Matt, like, why do you collect cards?
Oh man, it's like I feel like it's so deeply ingrained within me. It's hard to express into words. There's the part of it that's like, I did it ever since I was a little kid, and like very kind of formative moments of my childhood where a lot of those moments were built around cards. So there's that aspect of it. There's, I'm a nerd. I love history. I love I love baseball. I love history, and I love the fact that the cards are like this physical object that connects you to that history, like in a real thing, right? You can hold a Jackie Robinson rookie card in your hand, and kind of it's just like a time machine, right? And so I love vintage cards. I love the history of cards. I also collect the 2016 Cubs team because that was the World Series and
Yeah.
all of these things. And so I guess I'm like a nostalgia person. I'm a nerd person, so I just love the tangible, the physical, tangible like passageway to those moments in time. And I think cards provide exactly that.
So you're a physicist, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my
yeah.
background. Yeah.
So is it that I gotta think there's some connection between the way the mind of a physicist and the mind of a collector work. Is there a connection to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the physicist part of me and the card collecting is more like the logical piece that's like it's less about the transactional part of the logic and more like how does this card fit logically into the
Ah,
collection? Like, does this make sense? You
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it
yeah.
it's like I want the situation where someone can, like, look at my cards and know me, right? They can
Totally.
see me from my cards, and
Yeah.
so there's just, like so I feel like that part of it is, like, this weird meld between, like, the very, like, cold, hard logic side of me, and then the part of me that, like, loves the beauty, loves the aesthetics, loves the feelings, right? And it's like
Yeah.
cards are, like, really right in there, right? I always think of them as allowing me to explore the side of me that's less of the physicist and
Oh,
more of the creative and emotional person.
the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
guess so.
But there's also a really cool piece that you said, like, either a card makes sense in your collection or it doesn't. Like, there is a binary, either it works or it doesn't. Right, and I've been noticing that in my collection. It's made it very easy to get rid of cards because they just don't make sense. They don't and they won't make sense. Or if I have to make them make sense, I have to go on such a digressive trajectory to make them
Mm,
feel like I actually don't really wanna do any of that. Um, I love that. I've been reading a lot, in the art world, actually. So not in cards, but in art to try to understand what makes a good collection. Just
oh,
coming
cool.
at
What
it
if
sort of multidisciplinary. Well, cohesion,
yeah.
actually.
Mm,
Cohesion is the one that emerges no matter how you chop it up. A great collection has cohesion. Just like you said, this someone can look at it, it makes sense. Um,
mhm. Yeah, I always thought
yeah.
of it as, like yeah, like, that my collection is like this museum, and they're different
Yeah.
wings that are
Yeah.
kind of, like, represent
Yeah.
different parts of it, and, like,
Yeah.
do all the things in this wing make sense? And it's certainly
Yeah.
true that, like, there are cards that can fit for some period of time, and then they don't fit at some other point, right? It's not
Exactly.
always like this thing it's not necessarily the same answer as time goes on, but I think the important piece of it is that you're constantly kind of examining your collection through that lens and
Yeah.
using that to figure out what's my next move, and,
Yeah.
and what should I get rid of?
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Nice. Um, we'll come back to some of that, but I want to ask you why the Cubs?
I
Right?
see. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What makes them special to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's partially it's just like birthright. Like, my family's from kind of eastern Iowa, right, bordering the Mississippi, so the Illinois Iowa border, and this like that. So the in Iowa they have the Cubs AAA team, and so when my parents kind of moved close to Chicago, we were just Cubs fans. Like that's just how it was. And then it's like one of those things where you go to games and you're a kid, and I mean whether people believe it or not, I honestly think like Wrigley Field has a certain magic to it. And if you're a kid who goes to Wrigley Field, you're just kind of like you see like green, right? You see the ivy, you see the it feels old, you can smell the beer,
Totally.
and
Totally.
just you're just like, holy, this is like something I've never seen before. And then you see people getting so excited into the game, and it was those kinds of moments just kind of sealed them to me. And
Mhm.
then you just get used to like I don't know. There's a certain thing about being Cubs fan where, of course, they're like the lovable losers, and we'll talk about that. But there's also the inspiration of the hope that springs every year. Like every
Nice.
year, they're gonna do it this year, right? And I feel
Nice.
like in Chicago when spring comes around, it's like a
Yeah.
thing you feel, right? It's like suddenly people have shorts on. You smell the cut grass. It's different.
Mm.
And then I
Mm.
always associate that with the optimism of spring and the
Mm.
Cubs and baseball. And
Mm.
so there's all of these things, and just I remember being in grad school when Bartman happened, and like
Yeah, yeah.
throwing my beer against the wall, and I was like, because like
Uh,
Kerry Wood hit a freaking home run in that series. I'm like, there's no way they're losing this.
that team
And
was
so
good, man.
like I don't know, it's like one of those things where like you feel like you've gone through a journey, and
Yeah.
you're just like you're tethered to that
Yeah. Yeah.
organism, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's how it is with me, man.
Mm. Mm. That's beautiful.
It's
Wanna look at
fun.
some let's look at some cards.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, a little bit. Before we get to 89 Cubs, let's do a little
Yeah.
Cubs history. So
Yes.
the cool thing is that like people might not know this, but in the early part of the 19th century, the Cubs were actually a dominant team. They
Yeah.
were really good. So right around the turn of the century, I think they had 4 pennants in 5 years
Yeah.
and 2 championships, and it was built on these guys here. A guy named Joe Tinker.
There you go. Hold it up a little bit higher
Yeah, okay.
and then lean it back. There you go.
Yeah,
That
there we
is
go.
awesome.
So that's a T206
What kind
hands
of
on knees.
what's the back?
It's just a Piedmont.
Yeah, that's my
Piedmont
price
guy.
point. That's what I
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I get nothing out of the rarebacks.
yeah, that's right. And then so I got a Tinker,
Yeah.
I got the Evers, and of course I have to show you.
Oh.
Like, look at the color, right? This is
Oh yeah.
1909. Can you believe that?
Wow. God,
Look at
so
that.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
I love
Wow.
those sunset cards. They're just so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Look how he's holding
Wow.
the bat. Look how high up on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bat he
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So this guy was small,
Beautiful
but he
card.
was like this guy was like kind of a jerk on the field. This is the guy that that famous Merkel's boner incident.
Yeah. That's against the
Yeah.
New York Giants.
Yeah, this was the
Yeah.
guy that was like, no, 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 that ball, like that doesn't count because the ball got picked up by the fan or whatever.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
instigator
yeah.
of it. So that's Evers,
Really? Oh, I didn't know
Johnny
that.
Evers. Yeah, and then here's the third guy in that crew,
Wow.
Frank Chance.
Those all
So
go
this
to
is
so nicely together.
yeah, and so this one, of course, like reminds me of the Wagner with like the yellow orange portrait. I love the
Totally.
jersey too. Look at that,
Yeah,
like
look at the
Cubs,
thing down the
Chicago.
yeah. Wow.
See, like, I
That's
don't know, that's what's cool
amazing.
about rooting for these teams that have this enormous history is you get to go back and, like, get cards like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. So there's a great example of a collection, right? 3 T206s, Tinkers to Evers to Chance.
Yep.
Beautiful. And for those listening, those were all SGC, weren't they?
So the first
First one was
one was
PSA.
yeah, it's a PSA
PSA.
25 for the
Uh-huh.
Tinker,
Yeah.
and then, an SGC 3
Yeah.
for the Evers, and
Beautiful.
then SGC 4 for Mr. Chance.
Gorgeous. So
Mm.
how do you decide on a particular car whether or not to get it in an SGC or a PSA?
I don't think about it.
You don't think about it.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
for like the really expensive cards, I guess I feel a little bit better with PSA just from the point of view of like when I'm gone and or when I want to sell my stuff off, it'll make a little bit more money. But at the end of the day, I'm feeling like I'm having these cards for decades,
Yeah.
and I have no idea what grading is going to be like in 20 years. But
Right.
I do know that the card's not going to change.
Right.
So I really focus on the card. Yeah.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool. I have this weird thing where I won't buy a card in an SGC slab if it's post 1969. And for some reason, I don't know why that's my cutoff. And if, for sure, I do not like anything modern, ultra modern. I don't know. I love old, like, pre-war and SGC,
Mhm.
gorgeous, even golden age. But for some reason, modern SGC, it doesn't look right to me.
Well, that's a great point. I actually should have caveated my answer. So certainly on the vintage side,
Hmm.
which for me is mostly like I'm mostly like 56 and earlier, like I don't
Hmm.
care. But I
Hmm.
think that modern cards and SGC slabs look weird and
They do.
mostly for me has to do with the border. So
Yeah.
like the SGC slab with that beautiful black, it looks great when the card has a bright white border.
Yep.
But if it's like a full bleed, like a stadium club, it looks
Right.
freaking weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
It's no good.
I love the idiosyncrasy,
Yeah.
eccentricities, and um, what else you got?
All right. So, okay. Next. So, everyone thinks about Tinker, Evers, and Chance for these
Yeah.
early Cubs. But another guy who was key there was Mr. Mordecai Three Finger
Ah,
Brown, right?
T205.
So here's a T205 gold border
Woo!
of Mordecai Brown in a PSA 3. These cards are, I don't, do you have any of these, Dave?
No, on my short list, I have a top 10, and the Mathewson is the one I'm gonna
Oh,
get
yeah.
from that set.
That's one of the best cards of all time. I have one of
So
those.
beautiful,
Love that.
man. So good.
Like, check that out. Like, stats.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Stats. So T206, right, only has like the ad, right?
Yeah.
But T205, you get stats and you get a little story, you get a little
So
narrative.
so T205, I was listening to Dr. Beckett, and he thinks that it was probably a premium, probably a more expensive product. Even though they're different backs, like T206s, because of the gold border, he thinks it was
Mm.
probably a slight some kind of premium to it. Yeah,
I can totally believe it, and,
yeah.
I mean, I love when people do those things on Instagram where, like, post your favorite gold card. I always post this because 'cause I'm like, "This is what a gold refractor looks like, kids.
Yeah,
P205.
right
Like, get off
on.
my lawn, old guy."
Throw up my Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Only I care about that. That's beautiful. So all I knew was his name, right?
Mhm.
And 3 fingers. I did a little Mordecai Brown, dive, and I'm gonna bring up
Nice.
a picture here for us. This is for people who are listening, this is a picture of Mordecai Three Finger Brown's, pitching hand. 3 fingers, right? He has a thumb, he has a ring finger, and he has a middle finger. The greater part of his index finger is clear gone, and the tip of his pinky is gone. So what I learned about Three Finger was that he lost his whatever it is you put food in to shred it to feed animals, whatever that thing is, he his hand in a piece of farm equipment and chopped it, mangled it up. But then right afterwards, he fell and did further damage to it. So they think he actually had 2 injuries. And this middle finger, you see it's all cockeyed. It goes like
Mm.
left and then right and straight. That's from the fall. So he had multiple injuries, but he chopped off his finger. But I understand that he got credible movement because of the way he had to grip it.
Yeah, I think
Right?
that's right, like, he had movement on his pitches that were, like, it was really hard to pick up, so he
Yeah.
has awesome stats, and
Yeah.
he was a total beast. Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
also got a I mean, not only does he have a really cool nickname, Three Finger, but, like, Mordecai Brown, like, that's an awesome name, right?
Totally.
Isn't that
Yeah.
cool?
Have you noticed that athletes don't have nicknames anymore?
Not like that, they have, like,
No,
kinda
dude.
boring name
Boring.
nicknames
Right.
now.
Right. And like first initial and then the first 3 letters of your last name, that's not a nickname.
No.
J
No.
Rod, A Rod, those aren't nicknames.
No, Three
They're
Finger,
not.
that's a
Three
nickname.
finger, come on, man. So check this out. I got one more three finger to show you. This is uh an advertisement for have you seen this before?
No, I have not seen this,
It's
this is
pretty
really
cool.
cool.
So, yeah, so what we're looking at is, 1916, the very end of the careers of both Three Fingered Brown and Christy Mathewson, and they were rivals. I forget their career totals against each other, but they'd faced each other a lot of times, and it's, Brown versus Mathewson, the thing says greatest treat of the year for baseball, and so Mathewson is basically retired. He's managing Cincinnati. He's pitching just a little bit. He's no longer on the Giants, and Brown's at the end of his game. And you can see a little quote from Mathewson. It's cool to see him in a Reds uni. It says, "You can positively count on my pitching against Brown on September 4th." So it's Labor Day weekend, 1916, first game 1:30, doubleheader Labor Day at Weigman Park. And what is Weigman Park?
It's the predecessor.
Yeah, I learned a bunch for this.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It was before Wrigley was Wrigley.
Yep, North
Right.
Clark and Addison.
Yep.
Nice.
Just amazing, amazing. I love it. Stick is up. The main thing is the picture of Three Finger Brown. The Brown's twirling hand. That poor guy.
Man, it would have
Oh
been
my,
so cool to see this though. Like, I feel like this in
totally.
this era, right, of like Walter Johnson, Christy
Yeah,
Mathewson,
yeah,
Mordecai,
yeah.
and then you've also got Grover Alexander, Pete
Yep,
Alexander, who pitched for the
yep,
Cubs. Yeah, I mean
yep.
those guys were monsters.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
When
What? Oh yeah.
Reagan played in a movie, I remember.
Oh,
Look at
cool.
yeah, look at the thing on the right. It says Mordecai Brown will be ready to battle against Mathewson Labor Day. And who's the quote from? Your guy, Joe Tinker,
Yeah,
Cubs
Cubs
manager.
manager.
That's super cool.
Very nice. I love
Yeah,
that stuff, man.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, but the Cubs were like dominant, right? And these times, like the Yankees were terrible, the Giants were the team, like
yeah,
New York, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then the Cubs, right? They were, and then Pittsburgh, of course, with Pittsburgh and Detroit, right? Pittsburgh
Yep.
with Wagner and Detroit with Cobb, like those were the teams of that day.
Do you have a
Yeah,
Cub?
I do. I do have a Cobb. I
What do
have
you
to like
have?
root around to find it, but I have one. You want me to grab it?
Yeah, if it's a pain, you don't have to. You can just
Let me
tell us
see.
which one you have.
I have the so in as a I lost one of them. I traded one of them in the great
Oh
mantle
yeah.
deal of the
Oh
day,
yeah.
but
We'll get to
I
that later.
recently got yeah, here we go.
Oh,
This is
bat off shoulder.
T206 bad off
That's
shoulder.
the one. I'll take that over the portraits for me. That's beautiful, man.
I really think this is one of the nicest cards of all time, and also
Oh my god.
I have an affinity for the red portrait as well. I think I
Yeah,
need to get one again. I mean, part of
yeah.
it is like you actually there's a really cool podcast called The Monster. I don't know
Mhm,
if it exists anymore, but they only talk about T206.
mhm.
And they had Keith Olbermann on,
Oh my god.
who's like a
Yeah.
huge card nerd. And he was reminding people that it's not Honus Wagner, it's Hannes Wagner and all this kind of stuff. But one thing he was talking about is that you can find newspaper articles from 1910 that talk about kids paying off adults so that they could buy tobacco and the kids would have a shot at looking at the cards, and all they wanted was the cob. So like
Wow.
I think about me in 1989 like searching for Griffies and Upper Deck,
Yeah.
exactly, 80 years prior to that, same kids, but now trying to get adults to buy tobacco so they could get a
Wow.
cob, right? Isn't that cool?
That's un unbelievable. Yeah. Mm. So
Yeah,
what
but yeah,
happens
love this
after
guy.
though? That's amazing. So what happens after?
So okay, so there's the Tinker Evers Chance period. They're really good, but actually then even through kind of 1945, the
Mhm.
Cubs are pretty legit good. Like they never get back, they never win a World Series in that time, but I think they go like four, like I'm looking at it right now, like six times they go to the World Series between 1918 and 1945. So they're a pretty solid team. And
They're
if you look at
good.
their record, like first or second most years, and at that point in time, they're led by dudes like this guy. So here's an exhibit of Hack Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
So right, this is the guy who was kind of like the
I
National
love
League.
his 33 Gaudy. Looks like a cartoon character.
Yeah, I love
That's
that
great,
card
yeah.
too, but he's not in a Cubs uniform, so I don't have
Right.
it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So this is an exhibit. You can
That's
see him in this
cool.
cool old school
Yeah.
Cubs uniform. Yeah, these are cool. A little bit big, which makes him kind of
Look how
annoying.
short he is.
That's the thing. He was super stocky. Actually, I'm pretty sure if you read about him,
Yeah.
he had fetal alcohol syndrome. So
Oh.
his body was like a little bit weirdly shaped as a
Yeah,
result,
look at
but
his giant legs, tiny torso, and he's super small.
yeah,
I never
he
knew
was
that.
he was like a powerhouse, like a small little
Wow.
powerhouse guy.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Still
they
has a
had
single season RBI record.
that's right. That's
I
right. I
think it's
think
like
196.
191, 196.
Yeah, something like
Crazy.
that.
Yeah.
So you had that guy. You've got this guy here who's a Gabby Hartnett, who was
That's
a
a cool
catcher.
card. That's a great
Yeah,
image.
yeah, 33
Uh,
Gaudy,
wow.
Gabby Hartnett. Pretty cool. I
Wow.
mean,
Oh,
he's a
yeah.
Hall of Famer, but these
Yeah,
actually, if you're not buying Ruth and Gehrig and some of the big guys, these aren't crazy. These aren't crazy.
totally.
So you got that one. And the other one here is Kai Kyler. So
Oh,
this is
yeah.
here's a 33
Oh, yeah.
DeLong.
Oh, I know what that is. I
Yeah.
wanna I'm a so I grew up my town grew up Lefty Gomez, was in the neighborhood, and the long I want is the lefty.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not crazy. I mean, the Gehrig is really,
The
really
Garrick,
expensive. Yeah.
they've gotten more expensive. People,
They're
like, kinda
beautiful
caught on to
cards.
them. They're so beautiful, but they have to they have to be good. They can look really dull.
Yeah, they
That looks like
can.
a nice one. I love how
Yeah.
they're outsized with the stadium with the yellow and
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
It's cool. On the
Eh
back, they give you like kind of instructions on how to play baseball.
Nice.
Awesome stuff. But yeah, so the Cubs, like legit good kind of through 1945, right? They get to the World Series in 1945. Then you have the famous like Billy Goat incident, right?
Yeah.
Where like dude tries to bring in a goat into the
Yeah.
stadium. They
Yeah.
say no. He curses the Cubs, right? And at that moment begins this like decade long awfulness that if it's so funny if you go to Baseball Reference and you look at the Cubs, it's like sixth, seventh, eighth,
Yeah.
fifth, and they're just terrible for the longest time, right? And it's sad because it's during that time where they have some really good players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They got like this guy, Mr. Cub, right?
Ooh.
So here's 1954 tops, Ernie Banks, PSA 6.
That's
This
nice.
is
That
actually
card
one
is
of the
so hard to find centered, huh?
yeah, that you got it exactly right. I think if you look at the so I'm not a big pop report guy, but if you look
Yeah.
at this card, I think a full one third of them are either OC or MC.
Mhm.
It's just, um, but
So
yeah.
where
So
does it so tell me so that does that mean it's at the top of the sheet? 'Cause it's always the
Uh,
top that's cut off, right? It's always the top, and but are all the other cards that are next to it cut off like that too? It just seems like that card always is miscut
that's
or
you
on
know, I
someone's end.
haven't dug into it, if this card was at the top of the sheet. I mean, one thing that's tricky is that, the background is white, so there's really like, if you compare
Right,
it to, like, a Hank Aaron, right? It's
right,
hard to see the border, and it's like
right.
his name is also, like, really close to the
Yeah,
top,
yeah, for sure.
and so they always get cut, like, into the name. They're
Yep,
also left, right, usually
yep,
pretty rough.
yep.
It's a tough card. It's a
Yeah,
tough
yeah,
card.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Love this
But,
one,
it's
though.
it's interesting though, like, for as great as he is and a Chicago guy, like, it's not ridiculously expensive. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like you could a person can own that card,
Yeah,
like
it's
yeah.
not gonna, like, make you mortgage your house kinda thing.
Where is so if it's like Mantle, Aaron, Mays are your top
Mm.
3, is it like then Clemente's 4? Would you say Clemente's 4 there?
Maybe,
Who's
but you also
who's
got
even
Aaron.
4? No,
You got
they were
Aaron.
top I go Mantle, Aaron, Mays are your top
Mhm.
3 for cards from that era, and then after rookies, who is there?
Well, I mean, it's tricky, okay, because if I think about f I'm a 1956 top guy, so I think about 56.
Jackie,
You got Jackie in there, you got Ted Williams in there.
right, yeah, Ted
Museo's
Williams,
playing, but he
yeah,
doesn't have cards,
no,
right? And then
yeah,
you've got, like, Clemente, Koufax, and then afterwards, then you've got, like, Campanella, Duke Snyder, these guys. Like, for me in 1956 tops, I would say that the Ernie Banks is the 8th best card.
8th best, okay.
8th best.
8th
Yeah,
best, yeah. I
yeah,
wish there was a Mantle in 54 tops,
yeah. It would
and
have
I
been
wish there
it's
was a Bowman color for Mays in 53. Mm,
I think I would rather have the 53 Bowman color maze than the
I'll go with you
54
on that.
Mantle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Mm,
that
mm.
53 Bowman color, special
Ah,
cards, man.
so good. Do you have a favorite 53 Bowman color?
Reese, Pee Wee
Uh,
Reese. I gotta do
yeah.
that one. I mean, I think that's one of the prettiest cards of all time. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
Dodger,
yeah.
so which I know,
The Dodger. That's alright.
but I also like the Mantle, like, a lot. I think the one that I like a lot, that maybe I like the Minoso a lot.
Oh, with his, like, a chin on the
Yeah.
bat?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna get out my favorite. I have it right here. So my favorite from the 53 Bowman color is the Musial. I love this card so much. I love the background at the bat rack in the dugout. I love his smile. I love just the light across his face. Love this card.
Yeah, that's a good one. I also love his 52 Bowman is my favorite.
Mm, mm.
Love that one. I like the thing is, I generally prefer, like, the art card, like the drawn cards, the painted
Okay.
cards over the
Yeah.
pictures, but
Oh, really?
53. Yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
53 is special. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So 54 in the 50s Cubs are basically Ernie Banks, and then you get to the 60s.
Well, what's crazy is actually, like, so there was what's his name? I think, yeah, Hank Sauer, I think he wins the MVP in, like, 53 or 54, and people are like, "Who the heck is this guy?" But he was on the Cubs, and he was, like, pretty legit good that
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Like, the history has forgotten who Hank Sauer is.
Banks Sour.
Um,
Totally.
and there's, like, a guy named Phil Cavaretta, I think he wins
Yep.
the MVP one year. So there's dudes like that, but they really, things really start to turn the page in 61, because in 61, uh, the Cubs get these 2 guys. They get Ron Santo,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
got Billy Williams. So this is my 61 tops Ron Santo, which is in an
Mm,
SGC 7.5, and then a Billy Williams and a PSA 7.
I love that. It's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So one has the trophy cup, with the top hat.
Mhm.
I love that one, and one has the rookie star.
Yep.
So had Santo played the season before or
So it must
Williams?
have been, yeah, it must I'm looking on the back. Yeah, so he played 95 games in 1960.
Santa.
Yeah, but he didn't have a card
No,
in
in
1960.
60. And then what
Yeah.
about Williams?
So Billy was split. He did play 12 games for
Okay.
Chicago in 1960.
Okay.
But he was more of a rookie than Santo, I guess.
Okay. So the rookie cup is just like it is today. He had enough games,
Yeah.
and then Williams is coming up like a rising star, future guy.
Yep. I mean, and so yeah, so
Are
obviously
you
like go ahead.
No, no, no. I just like, I love those cars. I'm not a 61 Tops guy though. I gotta be
I
honest.
dude, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not I mean, for me, my interest, like, goes way down after, like, 58, I really like,
Okay.
but after 58, my interest, like, dives pretty
Oh,
fast.
really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, but the Cubs are they're starting to get stacked up, right?
Yep.
They've got Ernie. He's starting to get like a little so it's funny, there's this 1963 Tops that has Hank Aaron and Ernie Banks on the
Oh, yeah.
same card.
It's a
And
nice one. Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny because you read the back and it's kind of like, oh, Ernie's awesome. He's like, he hit 49 homers as a shortstop, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like this little section about Hank Aaron.
Hmm.
And so at that time, like Ernie was really like kind of the better producing of the two of them. But of course,
Interesting.
Ernie falls off pretty fast after that point, while Hank just keeps going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the Cubs they got Ernie, now they got Santo and Billy Williams, and then in '67 they made their first of their really awesome trades with the Philadelphia Phillies, and they got this gentleman, Fergie
Oh,
Jenkins. So this is a
that's a sweet
'67
card.
Topps Fergie. Yeah.
What series is that? Do you happen to know?
Oh, I don't know it. No, I do.
No, I don't know. I'm not with 300 something with card
Yeah,
numbers on?
333.
So not a high number.
Nah.
God, it's a great looking card.
Fergie, this is what I don't think Fergie runs his Instagram account. Somebody does, but the Fergie Instagram account liked this when I posted it, and they
Oh, that's
restored
great.
it, which I was really
That's
happy about.
great.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Um, so yeah, but at that point, so the Cubs are pretty stacked in the late '60s,
Yeah.
and if you remember in the kind of miracle Mets season of 1969, actually it was the Cubs, right, who were really dominating. Then you had the Black Cat incident
Yep.
on the field. Then they
Yep.
start to tank. The Mets come on, and then they go on to win the World Series. But that was like a heartache moment for Cubs fans, was '69,
Ah,
because I mean they got 4 Hall of Famers on the
yeah.
team and they
Yeah.
still don't win.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Are Cubs fans superstitious?
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
Like, and because you're like, and then Billy Goat, and they were bad. Now the black cat. Come
Yeah.
on, man.
I mean, they always have to find something to
Right,
personify or like to
right,
villainize, like
right.
Bartman, cats, or goats.
Oh,
Yeah. But anyway, so 1969, Cubs,
yeah.
they flame out big time.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
and then they are legit like god awful until '84.
I remember
So they went to
84.
the World Series in '45. They
Yep.
almost made it in '69. And it's worth pointing out to the kids these days, right? In those days, if you wanted to go to the World Series, you had to win the pennant. There was no
Totally.
wild card, right? There's no
Totally.
March Madnessing of baseball. You got to win it,
Mm-mm. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Cubs are like legit terrible all the way through '84. And of course, in the second amazing trade with the Philadelphia Phillies, they get this
Ah,
guy, right?
that's
Here we
right.
go.
For Ivan De Jesus.
Yep, that's right. So I'm showing my '83 Topps Rhino. Of course,
Mhm.
I'm never going to pay the price for a PSA 10. I'll take a nicely centered 9. It's only
Totally.
$50. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
totally.
So Cubs have, they get Rhino. He's really good, right? 84. He's an MVP.
Mhm.
They also get Sutcliffe, who's like a machine, right? You talked about that. You talked about
That's
this
right.
extensively in the
That's
podcast, right?
right.
So
16 and
Sutcliffe,
1.
16 and 1. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
monster, right? He's
Yeah, yeah,
beast. And
yeah,
so, but then, so then they make it to the NLCS against the Padres.
yeah,
And if you talk to the Cubs fans are like, we got screwed because the Cubs they played day games. There were
yeah,
no lights at Wrigley Field
yeah,
until
yeah. That's
1988.
right. That's
As
right.
a consequence of this, even though their record deserved them, or they should have been awarded home field advantage in '84, they weren't. And so people think it was because of TV, because they wanted more night games. They give it to the Padres, right? The
I
rest is
didn't know
history.
that.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that was just because Leon Durham made that big error.
I mean,
I remember
the
that.
Cubs will find something else to blame it on. They blamed it on the lights, right?
Hey, I know, so I know that 84 Cubs team super well because I was big time into Stratomatic baseball at that
Not,
point. I was a big Stratomatic kid, and I remember that play with the 84 Cubs so many times. Jody Davis, Leon Durham, second Sandberg, Larry Boa. The third baseman is Say.
That
The
sounds
outfield,
right.
yeah, this outfield is some combo of Keith Moreland, Bob Dernier, and Gary Matthews.
Yeah, you
That's
got it, man.
pure Stratomatic right there.
That's awesome that you still have it like at your
That's
fingertips,
it. I
man.
can't remember my children's birthdays, but I can tell you who played right field, 84 Cubs.
That's awesome. That's so
Oh, it's
awesome,
funny,
dude.
dude.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, so Cubs lose to the
Yeah.
Padres, right? It's a disaster. So it's been 4 decades since they made it, right?
Yeah.
They finally make it back. They lose. Cubs fans blaming the lights, right? But then the Cubs also like gear up, right? They
Yeah.
get the number one draft pick. They get this guy,
Oh, I'm so glad you're
Sean
showing that
Dunston.
card.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm showing an 85 tops. This is a Tiffany version of
Mhm.
Dunston's rookie card with the number one draft pick. He actually was the number one draft pick in '82. And what I remember about Sean Dunston is that he had a cannon for an arm.
Oh, yeah.
He swung at everything,
Yep.
and his first name was spelled in a really cool way.
Shawan.
Shawan. Yeah.
Shawan. He was a very popular Giant as well later on in his
Oh
career.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he grew up in Brooklyn, I wanna say. I know it was
So,
in
yeah.
the boroughs of New
Yeah.
York, and he was like
Yeah.
he was a really top player out of
Yeah.
high school. Yeah,
That arm.
Thomas Jefferson High School, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Dunston.
So they got
So you got
Dunston.
Sandberg, you got Dunston. They're putting the pieces together.
Yeah. Then they
Yeah.
get 87 comes, they get Greg Maddux. Of course,
Oh,
there's like heartache here because I mean, he was good as a Cub. I mean, he won a
yeah.
freaking Cy Young as a Cub,
Yeah.
but then they
Yeah.
wouldn't pay him, and then he
Yeah.
left. And then I don't know. I think it's also criminal how cheap cards of this guy are.
Yeah. Although not his finest refractor from '93, because
Oh,
I've
really?
looked at it. No, it's not.
Uh, oh, dang,
Yeah,
that's too bad.
yeah,
'Cause This
yeah, yeah.
this is a tops traded Tiffany from
Yep,
'87 and a nine.
yep.
I think I paid like $50 for
Right,
it.
and, like, you're trying to spend. You're going traded Tiffany, like, you can get that card as, just a
Yeah,
regular traded raw for a few bucks, I bet you. So,
yeah,
let me ask you a question since you pulled
yeah,
out the traded.
yeah.
Um, are you saying by displaying that as a rookie card that you accept the traded set as a rookie card?
The thing is that I don't care about rookie cards.
Okay.
I don't care about the distinction.
Okay.
I get why people are passionate about it,
Yeah.
but for me, like I was like, okay, I want a Greg Maddux card.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just like look at all of the cards from that time period and I just say like
Yeah.
which one looks the best to me and like
Okay.
the wood border of the
Oh,
87
yeah.
like pulls at
Yeah.
me and so that's what I went with. So that's kind
Okay.
of my take. I totally get people who are like it's not pack pulled, it's
Yeah.
not the rookie card kind of thing, but I
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a
yeah.
thing that matters to
It's
me.
not a thing. How liberating,
It is.
you know?
It is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the major like proselytizing I attempt to do in the hobby is to like
Yeah.
have people like look at the card. Like look at the card and decide if you like it. Don't
Yeah.
look at it and like it only because it's the first one or whatever.
Do you remember a few months ago, I was messaging you, I was looking at that Jim Brown, it's like a PSA 1, 58 Jim Brown, and it looked really nice and kinda got cold feet 'cause the seller seemed a little sketchy. I thought he might be shill bidding, and I ended up pulling off. Well, I recently just finally the reason I bring this up is because what you're just talking about, is I try not to be too beholden to rookie cards unless they're awesome,
Mhm.
and I don't love the Jim Brown rookie card for a bunch of reasons. First reason, it's always just like fuzzy face. It's even like even high grades, the face, the resolution is not crisp in his face. Number two, there's a ton of snow, right?
Mm.
Number three, that set, the 58, if you know it has, I know you're a baseball guy, but it has just double border. You have the regular border and an oval inside. So there's two
Mhm.
chances to be off center. So for all those reasons, the 1959 Jim Brown is like a Greek god breaking the border, stoic face, and it's such a great card.
Yep.
And I sold it, and I'm one of those cards. I'm like, why did I get rid of that card? I love that card. So I'm going to do what you're saying. I've passed on the 59, 58 Brown. I'm going 59. It's way better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very liberating because you can save yourself a lot of money. You get to like ask yourself challenge yourself a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Like,
Yeah.
is this the card for me or not? Is it really worth that amount of I mean, I love rookie cards too. Like I own a lot of them, but
Yeah.
I try to really focus on like what is it that appeal like okay, for example, Ted Williams. Ted Williams has so many beautiful cards. I
Yeah.
actually don't really love the third I don't really love the 39 play ball. I don't
Not at
love it,
all. No.
but like the 48 leaf card, that's one of the most beautiful cards in the world. Like,
That's
come
in
on.
my top 10.
Yeah.
I wanna pair it with my DiMaggio from that year.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what would be a fun thing to do? I was thinking it might be fun to do 50 all the pitchers, all 56 pitchers who allowed hits to DiMaggio during his streak, right? To collect that'd be a really fun collection in order, everyone, and then, like, you pair it with that beautiful 41 DiMaggio, right? So I went down the rabbit hole trying to do it, like, that would be so fun to do and just, like, really dive into this experience, right? Some of those guys don't have cards.
Oh man.
Because there's just, the
That era
sets are
was
much
tough.
smaller, right. So too many don't have cards, and then I thought, well, I actually am just old enough to remember Pete Rose's 44 game hit streak, which is
Mhm.
a totally different thing. I might just do that as a fun, cheapy, raw kinda, keep the mail days coming in a buck at a time kinda thing. But wouldn't that be cool to do a 41-56 game of DiMaggio's?
Oh, that I love that idea so
Yeah.
much, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it really points out like that era of cards, there's just so few, right?
Yeah.
There's these
Yeah.
sets that are beautiful, but they aren't big. They aren't big at
No.
all.